Oh, not millions then. Not tens of millions. Not sealed purse bids. None of that. More like $20,000 and $50,000 and $200,000 or so and $350,000, and the largest amount of money you can get is $750,000. This is a little bit more information about His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White's boxing league. So the lowest you can get is 20,000. It becomes about 120, I think, if I remember rightly. If you're in 34th place, it can get up to 350 if you're fighting for a title, or one of their titles, and it can get up to £750,000 if you're defending that title, so if you're the champ. It's not a load of money, and it's no surprise that Dana White said it's not about the money, or words to that effect. Well, it better not be, because that's not going to make anybody really well. Now, there are two things here, aren't there? The first thing is that people are desperate to know what's going to happen. Will this ruin the careers of people like Frank Warren and Ben Shalom and Eddie Hearn, who can't now make the fights they want to do because there are less belts, someone else is controlling it, and you really won't be able to make those big pay-per-view purse bids or get the money from the pay-per-view. That was a fear, wasn't it? But it looks like, let's deal with this first, it looks like this is going to be less experienced and, if you want to rank them, lower down and mid-card, mid-level fighters who can then, I suppose, I don't know what's going to happen, whether there'll be a relegation thing or maybe some kind of pick. You know, like in basketball, American football, my first pick is, Ben Shalom has his first pick. Maybe it's that, and the first 10 get to be picked by bigger promoters. That would be great. I'm not quite sure they've thought that far ahead. So those promoters, maybe what happens is, and I don't know, I'm just blowing smoke here, but people are interested, aren't they? And so am I. Maybe what happens is that they continue to make those big time matches with people like Alexander Usyk and Daniel Dubois and Gervonta Wipe My Face Davis, and people like that. Blimey, what's in there? Something alive in there. I'll have to give it a bit of food later, maybe a bit of smidgen of bread. A crumb, perhaps. Anyway, maybe they do all those big bouts and the league is something else, and you can watch it if you want to. You might be excited by it, but it's more authentic because people aren't... Ooh, see that? I was all over the place then. Whoa. I was controlling my phone. Anyway, maybe people will watch it, or maybe they won't be excited by the authenticity of the younger, less experienced fighters and all of that. They may want the big thrill of the big fights and the big pay-per-views. And it looks like those promoters are going to still be able to do that. But wouldn't it be great if at the end of... And there might be a season, there might be an off-season, which would be difficult, more of that in a minute, but maybe they say, well, there's a top 10 fighters here and you get to pick. And then we bring 10 more fighters in. But there's that thing, isn't there, of, well, fighters need the cash. Because it's the hurt business, and every time you step into that ring, you might lose your livelihood and your health, and you may lose your life. So we need to deal with that and the way that it's paid out. Now, I don't know what the general purses are in those big fights, but I do know there are enormous amounts of fights in small halls where people are not getting that kind of money. They're not getting 20 grand. We don't know if all the fighters, and actually how many fighters there will be, but say there are 100 or even 50, we don't know how many of those are going to be busy. Now, what happens when they're not busy? You're only fighting for this league, or are they fighting for the league and they should be available to fight for that league, but they can fight anywhere they want? Or is it just, you're fighting for this league, you may fight once this year, it's 20 grand, so you're going to be all right, aren't you? Not really. I've got 3 kids, for instance. How does that work then? It's not really. We don't really have the information yet, do we? So is it exclusive? Are those fighters able to go and fight somewhere else and top up? Is everybody going to fight regularly? Is there a retainer? It doesn't look like it. That's problematic for me. If you're going to have a league of maybe 20 fighters, and maybe you say, we come first, or maybe you say, we're exclusive, or maybe you say, don't take too many fights because you might lose the opportunity for this one. It's more money. But if you're going to do that, you've got to put them on a retainer. Because if you're saying don't take too many fights, then you fight once in the year and it's 20 grand. That's problematic, isn't it? Because you can't all be champions, can you? And 20 to 50 to 120. Well, 20 to 50. Then 120 is a big leap, and 750 is an even bigger leap. They seem like very big steps to me. It's not graduated, is it? That's more like I need a block and tackle and a winch and a pulley to get up to that 750 one. And it might be a few years' work. And you might spend a few years at 20 grand. And you might have to augment your boxing career to do that. Does anybody really want that? On the other side, you're providing regular money for some boxers. But it might only be some boxers. We don't know enough yet. But what I'm seeing isn't delighting me so far. Ta-ta.